Hey, it's Melanie again. I know I just vlogged about COCKYGATE yesterday, but I did make some mistakes in that video and my understanding of what is actually going on. I wanted to correct and talk a little bit about some of the stuff that has developed since then, because believe it or not, things are developing so quickly that literally like 5 minutes after I filmed that, there was new information. So on my previous video, there was a comment from Spicy Books Lady pointing out that, to her understanding, the restraining order was not against the attorney Kevin personally, but rather against his petition to cancel a trademark. That's, I appreciate, Spicy Books Lady, I appreciate, you pointing that out. The last thing I want to ever do is add to the general shit show of misinformation that always surrounds these situations. But I managed to do that because I'm an idiot. I've discussed this case with, writer friends, many of whom actually understand legal things, and no one has corrected me on this. I've mentioned, several times, God, how is she getting a restraining order against an attorney that's bringing, a case? I don't understand. I guess they're just being too polite to point out how stupid I was to interpret it that way. She's not, as far as I can tell from this, she's not trying to get a restraining order against the attorney, because that would be crazy, even crazier than the rest of this nonsense. What the restraining order is, it's not, it doesn't appear to be one that's trying to limit, contact or harassment or anything, which is what we usually think of when we think of a restraining order. It's actually a temporary restraining order, as she's calling for a preliminary injunction to prevent Tara Crescent and Jennifer Watson from publishing anything else using her trademark of Cocky. So Tara Crescent is an author who has previously published books with Cocky in the title. As far as I know, I don't think she is involved in the Cocktails anthology, which just came out, I believe, or is about to come out. I think it actually just came out. And Jennifer Watson is a publicist who was involved in promoting the Cocktails anthology, not an author, not a publisher. She doesn't have any legal, standing to do it. I'm trying to think of a good analogy for this, but she's literally just promoting this. She's not publishing it. She doesn't have any standing to stop anyone from continuing to publish more books. It's a bizarre thing to name her in this whatever this document is. I'm looking at this to try and figure out, what is this document? What actually is it called? It's a memorandum in support of their order to show cause for preliminary injunction and temporary restraining order. So let's call it a memorandum. I think there's probably a snappy shorthand. Memorandum of law, according to Kevin's Twitter feed. That is what this is called. It's a memorandum of law. It does not say that on the actual document, because that would make it too easy to figure out. So, yeah. That's a little correction for you. Hopkins is not quite that crazy. She's not actually trying to prevent Kevin from taking legal action against her through a restraining order. The restraining order is to attempt to prevent people from continuing to utilize her trademark as the case goes on. I am honestly not sure what the point of that is, in practical use. I don't know how having a restraining order, because if you have a restraining order against someone that says they can't come within 50 feet of you or whatever, I think it's more like 50 feet. I think it's more like 50 yards would be a more typical thing. But if you have a restraining order against someone like that and they come within 50 yards of you, you can call the cops on them and have them arrested, right there. I am not sure what a restraining order for publishing actually does, in practical terms. Because she was already having people's books pulled from Amazon. I know that RWA petitioned Amazon to have that suspended while, the legal battle is going on. So I don't think Amazon is pulling books anymore. I hope not. They might still be doing it. They said they wouldn't, was the last thing that I heard. So again, from a practical standpoint, she can't, like, send the police. If this injunction is granted, it's not like she can send the cops to someone to force them to stop publishing books with cocky in the title. So I don't really know what that's about. But the reason why I got confused in the first place is because this memorandum includes two different things. It includes that attempt to get a preliminary injunction against Tara Crescent and Jennifer Watson. Again, why she specifically picked those two people, Tara Crescent, who's just one of many authors who's written a book with cocky in the title, and Jennifer Watson, who is a publicist. She has nothing to do with this. But in addition to that, this also includes a petition to dismiss Kevin's a petition to dismiss Kevin's petition. She's trying to dismiss Kevin's petition against her trademark with prejudice. Now, what I said before, I think, still is correct. That she's trying to convince the judge to dismiss the petition in such a way that it cannot be brought before the courts again. That's what dismissal with prejudice means. So she's going hard. She's basically right off the bat trying to say, you need to throw this out of court and set it on fire, because that's how confident I am that I am correct. So one of the things that came up a lot in the online discussions about this memorandum, is that what? I keep questioning myself. Yes, it is a memorandum of law. One of the things that a lot of people sort of fixated on in this conversation is the way that Hopkins makes her case for why branding matters, basically. Why it's a problem when people copy her brand. I'm honestly not trying to be snarky by using the air quotes. It's a little snarky, but it's primarily because I am trying to distinguish what she is claiming is true from, like, the actual objective truth. So she's claiming that cocky is her brand, recognizably, and to the point where if anyone else uses cocky in a book title, it will be mistaken for a book in her series, and therefore her trademark is something that is crucially important for her to have in order to protect her business. So she makes this case by basically saying that romance readers are not discerning and are not very smart. She says that in so many words, that they are unable to tell the difference between a book written by her and a book written by someone else if it looks similar enough. And that has really upset people because it sounds really insulting to basically say, yeah, my readers are too dumb to figure this out. In fairness, it is a demonstrable fact that there is consumer confusion regarding brands that look similar. This happens in every industry, and I'm not totally clear on whether we actually know for sure what causes people to purchase something that is clearly not the product that they actually want. That's an unfair way to say it. Okay, let me back up and try and restate this in a way that makes sense. So when you go to the store, you'll see your name brand sodas, and then there's your store brand sodas right next to them. They always have very similar designs on their labels. They have similar names, like a knockoff Dr. Pepper is always going to be called Dr. something, and a Mountain Dew knockoff is always going to have, like, a green label with either like lightning or mountain, some like extreme, and it's always going to either probably have the word mountain in it or lightning or something that evokes, the branding of Mountain Dew. You get the idea. The intention isn't really to confuse people, I don't think. The intention is to sort of trigger that lizard brain reaction to a familiar brand, where it's like, oh yeah, this is something similar to something that I know that I like, so I'm going to try it. And I think that's more what's at play here, more so than people literally getting confused and thinking these books are all the same. It's a way of saying, of sending the message of this is similar to something you like. That's one of the important things that branding accomplishes. And the thing is, using the word cocky in your book title, that's not a brand. It's not a recognizable brand. And I talked about this in my last video. That's not a brand. Hopkins is making the case that cocky is her brand. It is so inextricably linked with her and her books that no one else should have the right to use it. The argument here is twofold. One is that authors, she's basically saying authors should have the right to protect a brand, even to the extent of trademarking a commonly used word. That's one argument that she's putting forth. The other argument that she's putting forth is that this brand belongs to her and is so inextricably linked with her. So this is kind of two separate issues, in my mind at least. The issue of, should an author even be able to trademark a commonly used word or phrase simply because it's a part of their brand? The other issue is this actually her brand? Is cocky her brand? I think it's pretty clear, we all, at least most of us, are pretty clear on the fact that we don't feel that she legitimately has a brand with cocky. It's like no one really knew who she was before this scandal. And I'm not saying that to be bitchy. It sounds bitchy, but that's actually a crucially important point to this case, because it's a big part of her argument, is that she's known as the cocky author. And that doesn't appear to be the case. Like, she's got one Facebook message attesting to that and to the brand confusion from one reader. That's not sufficient to demonstrate that she actually has this strong brand associated with the word cocky. And that's not to say that that isn't a thing that can exist. A lot of people have made the argument, like, listen, as an author, your brand is your name. Because, readers can read. Like, they're buying your books, that means they're literate, probably, so they can see your name on the cover and figure out who wrote this book, do they want to buy it, that's your brand. I've seen that argument. It's not wrong, but author branding is more than just name. That's why there's so many authors have similar looking book covers within a series and recognizable, snappy series titles and stuff. That's all part of branding, and that's all legitimate. And there are authors who have strong brands associated with them. If you're in the romance world and I say to you, Crossfire or 50 Shades of Grey or The Arrangement, you know exactly who I'm talking about. You know what authors I am referencing when I say those words. To me, that is an example of a recognizable author brand having to do with a book or series title that extends beyond just the author's name. So if someone intentionally tries to sort of capitalize on that brand recognition, there is a point where it does cross a line, in my opinion. Typically, though, there isn't a lot legally to be done about it, because it's not illegal to copy someone as long as you don't tread so close that you're literally Xeroxing it, right? That's why when you go to the store, you can buy that knockoff, Dr. Snappy soda instead of Dr. Pepper. It looks really similar. It even has doctor right there in the name. And yet, it's not illegal. The trademark that Dr. Pepper, who owns Dr. Pepper? I think Coca-Cola owns them. The trademark that they certainly have for Dr. Pepper, I don't even have to look it up, I'm positive they have a trademark for it, does not extend to calling a soda doctor. It does not extend to a maroon label with like abstract swirlies on it or whatever the Dr. Pepper, I don't even know what the Dr. Pepper label looks like anymore these days. But you get my point. Trademarks only go so far in protecting you from someone sort of aping your brand. It's part of being successful in this industry that there's a certain amount of copying that goes on. And I'm not saying it's right, but I am saying it happens. And there is such a thing as a recognizable author brand that extends to a series title or even just a single word, like Crossfire, for example. You know I'm talking about Sylvia Day when I say Crossfire. So if I were to put out a romance novel with Crossfire in the title and a cover that looks kind of like, an object cover with like the color wash and that sans serif font, I would be doing something pretty shady, but probably not illegal. And, that's just kind of how it goes. So even if Hopkins had like a rock solid case that the Cocky series was her brand and everyone knows that that's her brand, this is still a weak argument in my very non-legal, uneducated opinion. It's a weak argument because you don't get to tell people that they can't use a word just because it's sort of similar. It's a word that you used in your titles. You don't even get to tell people not to intentionally copy you unless it crosses that line where they're actually infringing on your copyright. She's attempting to utilize trademark protections in a way that just doesn't make any sense. And I know I said this in the last video, but that's what's happening here. And it's very clear to, anyone who has even a basic understanding of how these things work. But, yeah. There's so much to process here and so much to think about. I've kind of run out of steam. I don't know how to wrap up this video. Maybe I'm going to have to start doing daily vlogs just to ramble about all this nonsense garbage that's happening in our industry right now. But I think I got out the information I mostly wanted to convey, which was, yeah, I was wrong about the purpose of the restraining order and what it's actually supposed to do. But that just raises more questions than it answers because I have no idea what she's hoping the restraining order is even going to accomplish. So, the one thing I did want to make sure that I say is, like, shortly after I finished filming my video yesterday, the designer who created the font that is being illegally used by Hopkins in her trademark for the logo, the Cocky logo, he has sent a cease and desist letter. He said originally he didn't think he was going to be able to pursue a legal case against her. It seems like he's figured out he can at least send a cease and desist that's, cheap or free to do so compared to a lot of other things that you can try to do through the court system that can be extremely expensive. So he's at least gone that far. He sent a cease and desist. And he can be found on Twitter at Set Sail Studios. I highly recommend you check out his stuff, maybe buy a few fonts, help support him. A lot of people are saying, oh, we'll donate to a GoFundMe if you need legal fees and stuff. But so far he's been like, no, don't waste money on that. I'm not at that point yet. But go ahead and, if you're in need of some font designs, go ahead and check him out and support him because he's also a part of this battle as well. So, yeah, I think that was everything I wanted to talk about. I'm sorry for rambling. I'm sorry for my lack of editing and the aspect ratio on this video. It's just, my phone's the easiest way for me to film right now, and this is the easiest way for me to hold it. I'm going to set up something more permanent soon so I can do more vlogs and videos. Alright, it's time for another glass of wine, I think.